What's up, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer from blueandgold.com with Tim Hyde, our football analyst. And we got a pretty fun show today. I can't say it's a show that Tim and I have spent a ton of time preparing for, as Tim's got a full-time job. And of course, this is my full-time job. But it's a very busy time in Notre Dame football recruiting, which is obviously my primary beat. And I just kind of, we do the YouTube on the side here. And so very busy, but we do have some fun things lined up. We'll talk a little bit NFL draft reaction. Notre Dame had 2 players drafted. Tim watched the spring game back. How many times, Tim?
About a half a dozen.
Okay. Wow. I need to ask your wife and be like, when is Tim watching this, and what do you think about his obsession here?
It's when she's on conference calls and I got some free time, so it's all good.
Well, you have a pretty recently newborn, and you should break down the amount of time you watch the spring game with what you get paid with us, and see how much what that breaks down to.
No, I hear you.
So Tim will give his reaction and takeaways from what he's learned in these rewatches. He'll give position grades for each position group from Notre Dame's Blue Gold game. Talk about Notre Dame's 2023 recruiting class, and to finish it off, there's a guy named Dante Moore. If you are a Notre Dame football fan, watching this back, watching live, or listening via podcast, I'm sure you know who that is. So we do appreciate you guys with us live. Expecting a really good group tonight. If you want us to answer a question, make sure you just drop a super chat. Drop us a few bucks. We'll answer it right away. If you don't have the money to do that, just hit a thumbs up, drop a comment. Might be able to get to it later. $1 for 1 year premium access, blueandgold.com. Of course, that everyone's got a buck. Come on, you got internet access and a phone and a laptop. You got a buck. Head to blueandgold.com, sign up, get all the good stuff. Tim and I are on the message board all day long. Plenty of good content. And of course, thumbs up, subscribe to YouTube channel, leave a nice review on podcast. Hope you guys are having a great day. All right, that's a good minute of housekeeping items out of the way. Tim, I think we have the same. So this is our next segment. Best thing we've seen in the past week. I think we have the same, from what you told me before we started going live here. The same best thing you saw this week is the same thing. So let's just go ahead on the count of 3.
What? Oh, okay. I had a couple others before I found out what my best thing was.
No, well, all right, we'll get to your second and your third, but on the count of 3, you got to hold it up, because I'm guessing it's an item, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Fresh in the mail today. Blue and Gold Illustrated cover.
I got mine in the mail as well. There's my boy Steve Angeli. I fought like hell to get him on the cover. We didn't have the touchdown shot, and we just didn't really have some great shots of Steve for the cover. Like, we have our own photographer there. I was like, we have to put Steve on there. And both of these guys, Jadarian Price is the running back of the cover. They both had great games, so I was like, let's put them both on the cover. Have a little tandem thing. All right, Tim. So that's the best thing I saw. All right, Tim. For podcast folks who are not able to see that, it was our cover at Blue and Gold Illustrated. Steve Angeli, Jadarian Price on the cover there. So okay, go ahead, Tim. What else have you seen?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been battling the last couple of days figuring out the best of the week, and number one, I was going to be like, is it Mike Singer picking Jaden Greathouse, which I thought was like huge, obviously news if that does come down the road for Notre Dame and wide receiver recruiting. I'm a huge Elijah Page fan, and the fact that been on campus, he is coming out officially. Those are 2 of my favorite things I've seen here recently. And then, I go jump out to the mailbox, open up the mailbox, and there's Blue and Gold, and I'm like, how much did Mike Singer get on this one, huh? But I was excited. It's always good when you see youth is served, right? And on the front page with those 2 young guys who did play, obviously, really good football game, the Blue and Gold game.
All right, so there's the little nifty graphic that the fantastic On3 Graphics folks made for me for YouTube audience. Recruiting prediction machine. Prediction logged, 60% confidence. Jaden Greathouse, 4-star receiver. Prediction for him to land at Notre Dame. How big would that be, Tim? Just real quick.
Well, then, I mean, you're going into University of Texas's backyard for two kids. I mean, two of the top. What, James is right around 110, 110, 115. He'll be a 100-ish player. Same with Greathouse when it's all said and done. And you go into Texas and get, I mean, Texas and Texas A&M, for two of the, top 6-7 wide receivers in that state. And if anyone knows about Texas football, 90% of the programs in Texas are four wides basically nowadays. And they chuck that thing all over the place. So there's 1,000 wide receivers in the state of Texas that could play college football. And Notre Dame's going to get two of the premier ones if Greathouse does come down the road. And, it goes back to, we've mentioned it 100,000 times, right? Stuckey gets hired, and I think his year at Baylor, man, he sure does have some tentacles in that state and the relationships he's built before he comes to Notre Dame. Now he's got that Notre Dame, lapel on his shirt, and that holds a lot of weight when you walk into those schools. And it's paying off for Coach Freeman and Coach Stuckey down there in Texas.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Tim, I don't know. Like with Braylon James, the 4-star receiver from the Austin area, just like Greathouse, I don't think they had spoken a couple times.
Okay,
but they're not really close relationship. And with Greathouse, I don't think that Stuckey was that close with Greathouse. So
yeah,
I think this just goes to Stuckey's just a damn good recruiter, and I look. I mean, Del Alexander is getting even more thrown under the bus right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, Notre Dame had really good receiver classes under Alexander, but this potential class they might sign, I mean, it could be ridiculous. So I mean, like the Jaden Thomas, Colsey, Styles class was really good. But yeah, this might be pretty stinking impressive. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, and then Elijah Page, I'll pop on his profile for
he's one of those. Yeah, he's a lot like Sam Pendleton. Obviously, he's a late offer from Coach Easton. Once Harry gets hired there, and he's one of those guys. We haven't talked a lot about because he's obviously out in Phoenix, and is he going to go to SC, UCLA, that type of thing. But no, I mean Harry's been on him. I know you reported he's been out to go go see him. He's officially announced he's going to come visit Notre Dame because couldn't get out there during the spring. So really good football player, really, I mean, athletic, one of those under the radar national guys that is going to slowly blow up. Another offensive tackle, tall, long. I like him because he's a true offensive tackle, I feel, down the road. And I'm just a big believer in this 2023 class. Notre Dame needs to bring in 2-3 true tackles because of Fisher, obviously Joe Alt, Baker. Those 3 true tackles will be leaving here in the next 2 years.
All right, Tim. So the 2021 offensive line recruiting class.
Mm-hmm.
They signed Fisher and Alt. 2022 is really good with Wagner and Tanona and Billy Schrauth. Like really, 5-man hauls in 2021 and 2022. If they sign the following 5 in 2023, would it be better? It's my question to you. Sam Pendleton, Elijah Page. Pendleton's already committed to the Irish.
Mm-hmm.
Sullivan Absher, big boy out of North Carolina. Monroe Freeling, big boy out of South Carolina. And Charles Jagusaw from Illinois. I mean, can you rank those? I'm putting you on the spot here. Could you rank those 1, 2, and 3?
Well, I mean, you got to talk about them at the time they commit, correct? At the time they sign. And obviously, Alt was the 4th best one in that class, was he?
No.
Or third. But you have 2 studs. You have Rocco and Fisher.
I'll let you look at it however you want. Like
exactly. So you got to look at it like that at the time they sign. You can't.
No. I'll let you. I want you to project it to where when they're done playing at Notre Dame, which offensive line class do you think will be the best? Well, it's a total guess. I mean, I'm just throwing you.
It's a total guess. The 21 group is going to be extremely hard because of the emergence of Joe Alt. The fact that Joe Alt
Hard to beat, you
jumped on.
mean?
Yes, because I mean, you go from 4 string to starter. We'll talk about him in our spring grades. I mean, that guy, he looks like a first round draft choice right now. Blake Fisher's going to be really good. It looks like I thought, Rocco is going to get better and better. Those three right there are going to be hard to beat. The 22 group, it's all about Wagner. Is he going to, get up to 305? Is he going to put that weight on? I know I saw some pictures of him at the spring game. He's a 3-sport star. He looks, tall, skinny still. Doesn't look like he's out of weight. He's doing track, obviously, I believe right now. So he's going to have to pack on weight, but he's going to be a guy we probably won't hear about for 2 years because he has to pack on weight. And I think the rest of the group is a lot of interior guys. I think when it's all said and done, is Chan fast enough, athletic enough to be a Fisher, to be a backup right tackle? We're going to find out this fall. And then, but that group, Freeling's a true left, Jagasaw's a right tackle, and then you got some big dudes inside, that they're going to sign. It's the 21 group is going to be hard just because of the emergence of Joe Alt. I think everyone expected Fisher and Rocco to be up there. They're the big names, and Joe Alt may put them over the top when it's all said and done. I love Sullivan Absher. He's my favorite one just because of the violence he plays with on his film. He's a lot of fun. I mean,
Yeah.
he may be my favorite film out of these three classes.
Yeah, and he's a fun kid to talk to. I got to
Okay.
spend some time with him in North Carolina. It was a couple of weeks ago. I went out to his high school and sat down with him and his coach. This was a lot of fun. So Notre Dame looking like they're in a pretty good spot to beat out Clemson and NC State. So would certainly be a big get. All right, all of that talk for the past few minutes was totally not prepared. So we will move along with the show. Notre Dame had just 2 players drafted, Tim. Just 2. Little surprise there. Maybe to me at least. Kyle Hamilton and Kyron Williams. So this is a page in the draft tab at On3. Of course, Blue and Gold's on the On3 Sports Network. Hamilton went number 14 to the Baltimore Ravens. Kyron Williams went the number 164 overall pick. That's number 21 in the 5th round. So thoughts on these landing spots, and were you surprised at all to see Kyle Hamilton fall to 14?
Hamilton is obviously, he's so athletic. I mean, he's going to be the big nickel backer, the box safety. I feel his length, they could do so much stuff with him when it's all said and done. People projected him early on to number 2 to the Lions. He was a lock to be a top 5 pick. And it's hard. I mean, mock drafts, I said, are like March Madness brackets. They're meaningless. You're just you're just guessing. Yeah, we don't know what's going on in those GM rooms. So for him to drop, it's because there were some really good offensive tackles. Ohio State had freakish wide receivers, so freakish that one had to transfer to Alabama to play. That tells you how good their wide receiver room is. So let's enjoy hopefully their backups aren't as good this year, right? Come September 3rd. So when he started dropping, I was a little surprised just because he's such a really, really freakish athlete. But tell you what, if you're going to drop it, I mean, the good thing about it, you're going to a really, really good franchise that knows how to run a football program, knows how to run an organization. He's going to, probably, one of the top, 6, 8 best run organizations in the NFL. I think if you had to take a poll of people that follow the NFL. So going to the Ravens, he's going to play. I was a little surprised. I know he lost out on a heck of a lot of money, so hopefully his podcast and all that made him some good money because he did lose a lot of money dropping from the top 4 to the 14. But play your tail off and you make it. And the other thing real quick is safeties. He's such a great safety, but you know what? I went over the all-pro team, the 2021 all-pro team. There's only out of the 6 safeties on the first and second team, only one of them was a first-round draft choice, Derwin James for the Chargers out of Florida State. You have right here, you have a 3rd, a 7th, a 3rd, a 5th, a 2nd round draft pick. So there's no, very few dominant first round safeties in the NFL, and one of them being Harrison Smith for the Vikings, who's been in
Yeah.
the league for quite some time now.
That
So
that's
I wasn't surprised when it all came down because he is a safety and he's a nickel safety, he's a box safety, and you put all those things in when you really break it down.
yeah, and it seemed like Washington was really infatuated by him, and I believe they traded down.
Yeah,
So yeah, as soon as that happened, I was like, ooh, how long is he gonna drop? But yeah, I mean, the Ravens have had some pretty good safeties over the years, and Ed Reed certainly comes to mind. So yeah, Kyle Hamilton. I mean, his family's from Atlanta, or at least that's where they live now, I should say. Atlanta to Baltimore is like the easiest place to fly in and out. I think you can literally fly Spirit if you wanted to. You can fly Spirit like $35 round trip. I kid you not. So yeah, it's not bad. What about Kyron going in the fifth round to the Rams? I feel like there is not a better. Is there a better team that Kyron could have gone to? I mean, I truly feel like he could be like a number 3 back for them right away and contribute. I think it's a perfect fit with that offense.
he's yeah, and there's another one that I mean, obviously, it sounds like with Hamilton's 40 time probably hurt him, in the grand scheme of thing of not being a top 5 NFL draft pick, probably hurt him. And Kyron was the 15th running back. That is that's that's that that's interesting to think 14 different running backs went ahead of Kyron Williams. When you look at his body of work at Notre Dame, I know he doesn't have the blazing speed, but in the NFL, you said it perfect. He's going to the Rams that rotates backs. They play a lot of running backs. They don't have one bell cow, and that's my guy. They rotate a lot of guys. They have situational backs there with Sean McVay. So he's going to a great spot. He really is. And the Rams don't have a lot of draft choices because they trade him. They don't care about him. And they only had 2 offensive players drafted, and he's one of the 2, along with an offensive lineman. So hey, it's a great fit. Excited for him. Surprised he went to the 5th round because, number one, I don't think there's a better pass blocker than
Yeah.
him. And we talked about this before. That was the thing. I always thought his pass blocking was going to get him up in the 3rd round. I really, really did.
And that's why I think he can play right away. It's because he can do that. I mean, you have trust from your coaches that you can block. That's going to get you on the field.
Yes.
So, yeah, maybe you're disappointed that they fell that far, but you got to be really happy with the landing spot. When we look back on these guys in a few years, we're not going to talk about, oh, Kyle Hamilton fell from, 2 to 14. It's that he went in the first round that we're going to care about. And then Kyron is just going to be the productive running back, and I think he will be. So pretty exciting stuff there. And then, Tim, before we move on to talk about final thoughts on the blue gold game, Jack Cohn, Kevin Austin, some of these guys who didn't get drafted but did sign. Any thoughts on the undrafted free agents? Todd Burlage actually did a really good story. I want to say it was on Sunday or it was just yesterday. I can't remember. On the amount of undrafted free agents Notre Dame's had over the years that have done so well in the NFL. I'll pull that up while you're talking, Tim. But yeah, thoughts on the undrafted free agents for Notre Dame, the 2022 class or draft class?
Well, you thought, at least here in Notre Dame at Blue and Gold, chatting about some of the draft guys, you would think his, talking about Kevin Austin, his measurables, his numbers, his combine, his pro day, those things would jump him up in there. But at the end of the day, it's you got to watch film, and there was a lot of big time players he went against that he really just did not show up. I mean, all you had to do is put on the Cincinnati film this year, which the scouts all put on the Cincinnati film because they had 2 guys get drafted. They had the 4th pick in the draft. How'd you do against Sauce Gardner? He never got off the ball. He was bad. And I think that probably hurt him. And he had 1 solid season. He's at Notre Dame for 4 years. Those things do add up. You think he would be, I thought he would be, I thought Notre Dame would have 3. I never thought Jack Cohn would be a draftable guy. I just didn't. He can't get out of the pocket. And in the NFL, he can't get out of the pocket. He doesn't have the quickest release, going back to your guy, Dan Marino, with the Dolphins, not that he's Marino, but you know what I mean? Like the quick release. He doesn't have that zip. So he may get eaten up. And I never thought he was going to get drafted. I just didn't. Austin, I thought would get drafted because of the measurables. Someone take a chance. I mean, so many NFL wide receivers. There's tons of them, right? So everyone's got boatloads of them. You thought someone would get him, but I wish him well. Yeah, he's one of those you wish you would have came back Marcus Freeman's first year to have a true outside dominant threat, but hey, he took a gamble on himself, and we'll see how it plays out here.
All right, so the 2022 Notre Dame undrafted free agents, Kurt Heinisch to Houston, Kevin Austin Jr., Jacksonville, Drew White, the Washington Commanders? Is that what they are?
It's the Commanders, right? Not the Generals. Commanders? Yeah,
Oh, yeah, you're right. Maybe it is Generals. I think it's Commanders. I love the football team. The football team grew on me. I just thought that was fun and unique.
My little brother grew up a huge Redskin fan growing up, so it's like still
Tim,
stuck on that.
Can't say that.
I know.
Sorry for YouTube and podcasts if I just blared in your ear. That was in jest. If you're with us live, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. Appreciate you guys. Fun show lined up, but we'll be going about another 40 minutes or so. Let's see. Drew White, the Washington football commanding team. Marin Tongavloa Amosa, Las Vegas Raiders. That just feels like a perfect fit. Jack Cohn to Indianapolis feels like a perfect fit as well. I think Jack Cohn's going to play in the NFL for a while. I don't know if he'll play much, but I think he'll be in the NFL. I think as a solid number 3, scout team guy. He's just a smart person and a good locker room guy. And then Isaiah Pryor getting a shot with New Orleans. Pryor just never quite could find a spot in Notre Dame's rotation, Tim, but just something about him that you still just feel like there's something there. You just watch him like he looks like a dude. Such a great high school recruit. IMG Academy to Ohio State to Notre Dame. His dad played at Iowa, I want to say. Richard Pryor. Was he a comedian?
Yeah, not the comedian.
Yeah, not the comedian. That's obviously I'm a little too young to know him, but
I like Pryor.
Yeah, I just feel like he still could tap into it, something.
Yeah, there's a handful of games you just see 10 just explode on the field at times, and he's got it. He's got those combine numbers, that speed. Fingers. I like him. I always thought he was good guy. I was hoping he would come back, and I thought he would be awesome in this defense. But he may be one of those special teams guys that hang around for about a dozen years because of his athleticism.
Yeah. Chris just made a good comment. Pryor still got that 5-star pedigree. Yeah, he does. And he's got a degree from Ohio State and Notre Dame. So good for him. Okay, 14 undrafted Irish free agents on NFL rosters in 2021. Josh Adams, running back, Saints. Alex Bars, offensive lineman, Bears. Scott Daly, Detroit Lions. Jalen Elliott, safety, Detroit Lions. Chris Fink, Kansas City Chiefs last year, and I believe he just got picked up by the Bears, so he'll get a shot there. J.J. Jansen, long snapper, Carolina Panthers. Jameer Jones, defensive lineman, Jacksonville Jaguars. Tony Jones Jr. with the Saints. Tommy Kramer, offensive lineman, Detroit Lions. Nick McLeod, defensive back, Buffalo Bills. Javon McKinley is a receiver with the Lions. Lions love Notre Dame. Sam Mustipher, center with the Bears. Romeo Okwara, linebacker, Detroit Lions. And another Lion, Brock Wright, who played with the Irish as a tight end from 17 to 20. So, Notre Dame.
No, I was going to say, you mentioned the Lions. There's a couple years where the Chargers had 4 or 5. The Vikings one year, I think, had 7 Irish on it. So there's always a handful.
Chargers had what? Tranquil. They had who's the guy?
Tillery, Isaac Rochelle.
Isaac Rochelle, yeah.
Tillery, and I think they even had a guy on the practice squad. They had like 4. Manti Te'o was on the team too for a year. So yeah, they had a handful. There's always a few that have a boatload of Irish guys.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, Lions right now. Not the most glamorous place to play football, but hey, you're playing NFL ball, so
get paid.
Yeah, Notre Dame would love to have a fantastic relationship with Detroit. They really want this quarterback from there in the 2023 class. We'll talk about in a bit, but we will move along. So Tim, you've watched, as you mentioned at the top of the show, you've watched the spring game back You said 6 times. Um,
Yeah, give or take. Hey, it's background noise there on Peacock, right?
so, any big takeaways before we dive into rapid fire position by position grades, and any big takeaways from your six or so viewings afterwards that maybe you didn't see in the initial viewing live that we talked about in our live show afterwards?
Yeah, number one. I mean, your favorite football player. I thought Joe Alt was the best football player on the field, and I'm not
Is
saying that because you're
is
here.
is Joe Alt my favorite football player, or is it Angeli? I don't know. Talk about
I
that for another day.
hopefully it's Joe Alt because he's gonna have some NFL money here coming up. I'm
He's
telling you,
not sending it to me, so it doesn't matter either way.
he looked he looked 2 years older. He really did. His jump from last year to this spring was very, very huge on film. Good football player, fundamentally sound. Obviously, last year I made the comment on our message board. He played scared, and I said that in a good way, as in he's just not messing up. He's like, I was just a four-string guy a week ago, so I'm going to step the right place. I'm going to block the right guy. I'm going to make sure I don't screw up. In the spring game, he looked like a guy with some attitude out there. He had a couple pin blocks on Maris Leofau, and he had one on Tuli Alamaka where he just pins the living heck out of them with anger and a little violence. And you could just see the maturity already in 1 year where he now knows I'm the dude. I'm the left tackle at Notre Dame. I'm going to be an NFL draft pick, and I'm going to play like that and work like that. And I just thought that was so noticeable popping off on the film. And then as the next guy I would say that really surprised me was Jack Kaiser. He's just one of those guys that God, he's all over the place. 24 was everywhere. Every time he's on the field, he's making a football play, and he's impressive. I'll be curious to see if he's a captain this year. I thought he had an outstanding spring game.
All right, so
Those
we'll
are my
go.
two best players.
Okay, we'll go position by position. You give a grade from what you saw in your 28 viewings of the spring game. We'll start. There's an order that I always go in when you talk about
Mm-hmm.
positions. Start on offense, quarterback. What's your grade?
Well, D overall, but that's probably an overreaction. I'm not a. Yeah, I mean, me personally, and going back and rewatching it, I think, I give it a C minus. How's that? I think the overreaction to Pine was a little overkill.
Okay, so
I
what
mean,
what did you see? What did you see from him that it wasn't as bad as maybe people thought?
well, number one, he's clearly the number two. I know people thinking Jelly. This has been a hot topic on the board, and articles written about it. No, Drew Pine's number two. I mean, number one, his last two drives in the first half, he takes them on a 80-yard drive for a touchdown, and in 50 seconds, he goes from the 25 or the 25 to the 30 in 50 seconds, sets up for a field goal that they miss, and so those two things were pretty impressive. His early outings early on, he struggled. But you know what? The first play of the game, he's got a touchdown to Michael Mayer. And Bauman whiffs on a block. Mills gets the sack. Everyone's praising Riley Mills. No, the darn tight end doesn't even block him, for crying out loud, first play of the game. He's got a false start on with Caleb Johnson, which is a false start by, man, it's like, it's so close. It doesn't even look like a false start. It's so close. He's picking up a blitz on the outside, and he throws a perfect touchdown pass of 25 plus yards right over. I hate to say it, right over Cameron Lewis. Don't want to bring up Oklahoma State. And Mayer just mosses him right over the top for a touchdown. Guess what? None of those count. None of those count. And I just thought it was a little overkill. He struggled a little bit. But in rewatching, there's a handful of times you see the TV. He's running over the sideline. He's throwing off his wristband to the other team because he's got to run back to the other sideline and get the other one. And he did struggle. He struggled throwing some of the deep balls. His underneath throws, he was really sharp on those, threw some nice screens. I just thought it was a little overkill. And as you watch it and you grade it a little bit, he's throwing to walk-on tight ends and wide receivers that are just running all over the
Well,
place.
damn,
So
Tim, do you want to give him an A plus now? Like, what do you
no, I
give
don't
the
want to give him an A.
quarterback?
I don't want to give him an A plus because he did have a few overthrows, and they were. I mean, the one interception to Walters that gets called back was a horrible throw. It's like, where are you throwing it to? I'm just trying to say he's not an F. He shouldn't transfer. He shouldn't have every quarterback jump him. He's going to go into camp as a solid number 2 with game experience last year, and I think he solidified that
Yeah.
when you watch it a little closer.
I'm just gonna throw something out there because our Blue Gold Game show, I got a lot of emails from people who have my email. So here's my email: M, as for my first name, Mike, M Singer at blueandgold.com. Shoot me an email. Tell me what you think about stuff. Tell me what you think about the show. Tell me what you think about what we could do better, what you love. I had people after the Blue Gold Game tell me that I was too high on Drew Pine. Um, I had people tell me that I was not high enough on Drew Pine. I had people tell me you love Buckner way too much. I had people tell me I hate Buckner. So I just find your guys' emails hysterical. And I love you guys, but I guess I'm the biggest lover and hater of everything Notre Dame football. But it's besides the point. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the numbers, and I did mention this, and they still haven't corrected this if you're watching on YouTube. And Jelly is listed on the blue team as 0 for 4. He threw one pass
One
for the blue
pass.
team. It was
Yeah.
one pass. So 3 of those incompletions, he did throw one. It was a Lenzi or a Salerno drop. So Pine actually went. What's 13 plus 9? Was that 22 of 20? What 6? 20 or 22 of 36
Mm-hmm.
for whatever 129 plus 56 is. Was that 185 or something like that? One touchdown, 2 picks. It's not that bad when you just look at the numbers. Like it's really not. We've seen a lot worse. So yeah, it just wasn't that bad. Was it not good? Yes, it was not
It
good,
wasn't.
but it wasn't awful.
I agree. He was inaccurate a few times, and it's
But
like
who isn't inaccurate a few times? I mean, every quarterback's gonna throw some bad
exactly, and that's
balls.
going back to the overreaction and the overreaction on the board, the overreaction in the on the YouTube comments where I'm chatting with people in the comments here on our video, and it was a little overkill. It really was, and I know Angeli's on the cover of Blue and Gold as we showed. I think it's a little overkill on his performance. He threw 2 passes past 10 yards, Mike. 2 passes.
I
One
mean,
was a play action to a walk-on tight end on a drag, and he has a walk-on wide receiver, Radican, wide open, and he overthrows him by 15 yards. Wide open for a touchdown. He overthrows him, man. And I thought a telltale on Angeli was they had a 3rd down on his 2nd time in the game, and it's a spring game, and they run a draw. I think his first 6 plays, he had 5 runs and 1 pass, and the pass was a hitch. So, and even on the game-winning drive, he only threw the ball past 10 yards. I don't think he even threw. I was charting him. I don't think he threw a pass past 10 yards on that last drive. So,
but you got to use the context that he is an early true freshman. This is Pine's 3rd year.
true,
I mean,
true, but it's a 2-minute drill, end of a thing. He's playing with
you
a
know what,
bunch of young
Tim?
guys like him
You
as
did
well.
mention a good point. It was a 2-minute drill. I'm just
Yes.
gonna play something for you.
Yes.
Seconds left. Angeli rolling out on the move. He pumps. He'll run for the end zone. Dive for the pylon. It's a touchdown. Steve Angeli, as time runs out, wins the blue gold game for the gold team.
Now I want everyone to go back and rewatch there and tell me how hard Riley Mills played on that snap. he just hangs out and just gives up a little bit. But
I would love if we could play it, but NBC will give me copyright.
It was a good drive and
so
whatnot.
NBC, don't take that down because I used your audio. Calm down.
It was a good drive, and obviously as a freshman went out there and made that as we did our live show, a boring game, a lot of fun at the end of the game. So
All right,
I thought the quarterback was an overkill.
all right, C minus. This is not rapid fire, by the way. If we were doing a
Not with
PTI
quarterback.
show where it's
Yeah,
like
not with
you get a
quarterback.
minute on a topic, we went overboard a little bit. Okay, running back. What's your grade?
B plus. I'd say a B because Diggs gets hurt. Is he going to be back to start this season? Chris Tyree has a great run on a counter, and then we don't see him the rest of the game. So
No
did
need.
he get dinged? Exactly. He get dinged up. We don't know. Played obviously Audric Estime is a tank. So I really hope he gets a lot of carries this year. What's a
I
lot?
feel like he bounced outside a lot for a bruising back. He sure did bounce outside. You
That's
notice
always
that?
been his. Yeah, that's always been his thing. I remember when he was getting recruited, some of the people were always talking about that. He wants to bounce it, but he has a couple off tackle runs behind Fisher and Lugg. Fisher and Lugg, by the way, they're going to be one of the best right side tandems in America if both stay healthy. They had some really good blocks. Yeah, estimate go downhill and go. Jaden Price is going to be a good football player.
Yeah.
They got 4 backs. So if there's a guy that's dinged up, not ready to go, it's going to be next man in there. And I don't think they're going to miss a beat, so to speak, with some of these guys.
Yep. And receiver, Tim?
Can we just go incomplete until we don't see guys we've never seen before play? It's, Jaden Thomas was obviously solid. Lindsey had a great back shoulder play. Colsey needs to step. Colsey needs to just be like, I'm here. What was he? The 100th ranked player in the country, 105. He's a highly ranked football player. Go be a dude. He needs to go out there and dominate and be a guy. So it's incomplete. It's incomplete until we see this whole group is together.
Yeah. Leading receiver for the gold team, Jadarian Price, 8 receptions, 104 yards, touchdown. Leading receiver for the blue team, Logan Diggs. So, yeah, you had your 6 leading receivers, 3 on gold team, Price, Jaden Thomas, Connor Radigan. Blue team, Logan Diggs, Matt Salerno, Deion Colsey.
2 for 8.
So at least in receptions, I should say.
But at the same time, there wasn't a lot of spread. There's not a lot of deep passes. There's a handful of passes past 10, 15 yards in that game. They kept it really short.
I almost wish maybe it wouldn't be good for recruiting purposes, but what's the good? What good comes out of this spring game? It's so vanilla. It's like, all right, here's a showcase to your fans, and then your fans just complain about the whole damn thing. It's like, what's the point? Peacock money? I don't know, whatever. But fullbacks, Tim. Do we have any fullback action?
Yeah, fullbacks. Who is it? 40 was out there, right? Is that the fullback? So
I don't know.
Yeah.
Tight ends.
No fullback. You know what? Tight ends. Obviously, they have the best one in the country. The rest of them, you know what? And, we talked about this on a podcast where I thought, who's going to be the number 2 tight end? I don't know. I still don't know after watching that game. Bauman got hurt again and whiffed on a few blocks. I thought Evans, 88, needs to realize that you're allowed to hit people at tight end. I just don't think he's that physical. So tight end, the number 2 tight end, because I think Michael Mayer is the best receiver on the team. They have to flex him out unless they're just not going to even waste their time with the number 2 tight end. Unless one of these is a true go-to guy in Bauman and Evans. I was a little surprised with their performance, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, will be interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it is. They need a number 2, and George Tack is leaving.
Bauman is I feel like he could be a good blocking tight end.
But he got dinged up again, and it's like they have to find a number 2. Takas was that guy, but obviously he wants to go be a 1. He wants to go be the guy that's going to go run the routes and catch 50 passes for BC. So I understand why he left.
If Kane Braun comes back healthy, he's still a receiving tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Evans is big, but in high school he was a quarterback and a punter. He played a little bit tight end as a junior, but really he's a quarterback and a punter. So a little adjustment there to the position.
Yeah.
Did you actually give a grade for the tight ends, Tim?
I'll go C. Just because of Michael Mayer. The rest of them I thought were really. I was very disappointed because that's something I was really interested in going into spring football is who is going to be that number 2. They give them the Troy Nicholas back in his days with Eifert. He's in line and they can flex Tyler Eifert out. I was hoping that Notre Dame could do that this year with Michael Mayer. Keep a guy in the box and bounce out Michael.
All right, we do have to go rapid fire so we can hit all of our topics. Offensive line.
The starting 5 is going to be legit. As easy as that. Starting 5. A lot of the big plays were over the walk-on, number 53, and Caleb Johnson. Blake Fisher played his tail off. Alt, like I said, I think Alt was the best player in the spring game on both sides. To me, Rocco Spindler, I thought was the best guard.
Okay.
I really did. I thought he was a solid guard. And so if he's the left guard, they're going to, or Kristofic, but at the right side, if Lugg could stay healthy with Blake Fisher, that right side is going to be dominant.
So what, A? You're not giving me grades, Tim.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. The starting five with the backups, it's gonna be an A-. They're gonna be good.
Defensive line.
Oh man, A for depth. They got dudes all over the place. We talked about them a ton. The biggest surprise was 90 Aaronsberger, who played solid, really showed a lot of flashes in that game. Foskey really didn't even do anything. He just hung out a little bit. So probably just taking his time, which is fine. And obviously Mills was the stud of the whole group during the spring game. So that group has to go win football games for Notre Dame in 2022.
Okay. Linebackers.
Linebacker, you know what? I'll give him a B+. I'll give him a solid B+. Tulialamaka was solid. Maris flashes a little bit. I thought he got blocked head up a bunch in the run game. And then Kaiser, Jordan Botello, two outstanding rovers. They're going to have some good depth with those two guys right there. And then the big surprise was the way Ziegler, we talked about this live, the way Ziegler played inside at Mike for a true freshman. I thought he played really well. Yeah. And Prince Kali is just going to be a stud the more reps he gets.
Yep, Ziegler, a wide receiver and safety in high school. Just months ago, we're talking, catching 3 touchdowns in the state title game and playing safety. And now he's a Mike linebacker at Notre Dame. So there you go. Let's just go defensive backs as a whole.
The surprise, I loved them. I thought, what's a grade for the group? Well, they didn't have to defend anything past 15 yards in the game, so it was easy as could be. So. True. You give them an incomplete because the receivers are incomplete because no one got challenged in that game, whatsoever. But I'll give that a solid B+ because they didn't get challenged. A B+ because the young guys, those 6 guys we've talked about, the 2 freshmen and early guys and the 4 sophomores to be, Riley, Barnes, Walters, and I love Tucker in the game. There's those 6 young guys showed out and showed a lot of promise moving forward for Notre Dame.
Yeah, great. Little parting gift. Clark Lee left. Some of those 21 defensive backs, Barnes, Tucker. Chance Tucker, really, Clark Lee had a huge impact on him committing to the Irish. I want to bring up this comment from Chris Ayers. Does Burnham have that action figure build? He really does. Josh Burnham's a beast. I got to see him when I was in South Bend. Dude's massive. Kicking game, great. Tim. Special teams.
Let's just score touchdowns, right? It's just score touchdowns. Hopefully they could have a guy kick off to the end zone. The punter was a walk-on goalie, I think, and off the soccer team. But their punter's coming from Harvard, and obviously the McPherson's coming in. So the kicking, the field goal kicking was bad. There's no other way around it. So it was bad. They did make a couple. So we'll give them a C- because they made a couple, so we'll go from there.
No, made one. Blake Groupie hit from 36 yards. Then he missed from 41. Josh Bryan missed from 48 and 37. So,
kickoffs.
You got to knock them in inside of 40. But for college kickers, hitting outside of 40, I think for the most part, it's about a 50-50 proposition. Mm-hmm. But you got to knock them in inside of 40. So that's kind of where I stand on kicking. Blake Groupie has played a lot of football. I'm not worried about him. Yeah, the punting will be fine.
Yes, exactly.
You did have Chris Salerno, who's going to be a sophomore, punt to Matt Salerno, the punt returner. So I think that was pretty cool.
Little brother there, little Crespi Silts.
There you go. Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything. Do we have anything else that you wanted to cover that we didn't talk about the blue gold game, Tim?
No, just a real quick 30 seconds. The reason why I thought Alt was the best football player, 5 for 5 against Isaiah Foskey in one-on-one pass pro. 5 for 5. Just stood up Foskey 5 times. That was my reason why he was player of the game. He was outstanding. And Foskey was not just chilling over there.
Right.
He was trying to get around Alt, and Alt beat him to the punch. And you could see a lot of different technique in watching last year's film to this year, what they're doing O-line. And we'll get into that down the road with what he stands doing up front.
Okay, good stuff.
Very noticeable.
All right, we're going to move into some recruiting discussion, my area of expertise. As often as we often do, we talk about our Cover 3 article that we ran at Notre Dame that runs every Wednesday, and this live show, of course, goes on Wednesdays. This week's headline: Will Notre Dame's 2023 class rank higher than 2022? Cover 3, meaning 3 of our staff members answer this question. You guys can read the article. Got a funny super chat in. Starting 3 says, and the username checks out there, Joe plus Alt plus Del. That's kind of funny. Joe Alt and yeah, Del. Okay, there you go. Will Notre Dame's 2023 class rank higher than 2022's class? You can read this entire article. Really good insight from Ashton Pollard and Patrick Engel. They did it such a good job on it that I was like, look, I'll just kind of make my angle simple here. I said yes, but barely they will sign a better class. The 2022 class ranked number 6 in the country per the 2022 On3 consensus team recruiting ranking. Tim, I've said this before. I feel like that 2022 class was really good, but like not elite level. Like it's like a really good B plus, A minus if you're feeling happy. And then it was the best class they've signed on paper since 2013. And it just feels like this 2023 class is off to an even better start. So I say yes, but man, it's tough to sign a top 5 class. Because to sign a top 5 class, there are other really good teams that you're going to have to beat out. So I think A&M's going to be, with their NIL right now and how they're recruiting, I think they're going to be a top 5 every single year, the way things are going right now. And then you got to say Alabama, Georgia, probably every year. So there's 3. And then you're looking at, 4 or 5. Got programs like Oklahoma, Clemson, USC, Notre Dame, LSU. Can they, all these programs are vying for top 5. I do think Notre Dame will get right at number 5. Maybe they have the same at number 6, but I think it might be a better score than last year's class. So I have Notre Dame finishing in the 4 to 8 range, Tim. What do you think?
Well, 2 are going to be up there in Georgia and Alabama. So, those 2 guys. But if Notre Dame is lower than last year, then they went over on a lot of guys.
Or the top just cleaned up. Or,
Yeah, but they kind of. But the one thing about Notre Dame and their commits right now is that in the past they would have a couple. A Tyson Ford, who was top 100 type players, and then they have a boatload of 3-stars. They got some dudes this year. They got some nationally ranked guys this year that already laid the foundation for. You got Peyton Bowen if he stays is top 50. Keon Keeley's top 10. You're already going there. So and Traore's top 100 and on and on and on. So with their lowest guy is Pendleton, but they may get 3 top 50 offensive linemen when it's all said and done, if they could get a couple of these guys. So if they're lower, then number 1, that means they didn't get Dante Moore. He's a 5-star quarterback. If he comes to Notre Dame is, and then you get Greathouse and you get Jason Moore, you get, once again, high-end guys. That's got to solidify you in a top 3,
Ooh.
4, top. At the bottom, it's Texas A&M can't sign 8 5-star D linemen this year. They can't, unless they're just dishing out money and guys are going to take money and then transfer in 6 months. But I mean, Brennan Vernon. Vernon is forgotten, it seems like, all the time, and he's one of the top 100 players in the country. James Greathouse, you're going to get 2 of the top 125 receivers when it's
If they
all
get
said and done.
Greathouse.
What's that?
If they get Greathouse, yeah.
Exactly. If they get Greathouse, so you got 2 premier ones there. So running backs, middle of the pack. They're not going to get a high end running back. Here at Notre Dame, but top 3, top 4. I think, because that means they got Dante Moore. If they're below 6, then they struck out big time on Monroe Freeling, Dante Moore, Greathouse. A handful of these guys already.
Yeah. I'm going to give a little tease. On Monday, I'll have an article. I have the gold standard out each Monday. It's my kind of big insider piece of the week, as well as I do Lucky Charms nightly, Monday through Thursday. Lucky Charms tonight, by the way, will be really good. That $1 for a year deal will be worth it just for tonight's article. Will be it's a good one. A couple of big Notre Dame targets scheduling June official visits. But yeah, my Monday Gold Standard article will be a new mock class where you talked about mock drafts earlier and how they're just a crapshoot. I last did a mock draft in the middle of February, and my mock draft that I'm going to do Monday is not that much different. Notre Dame is still really in the mix for these top-of-the-board guys, and many of them I have predictions logged for. Predictions are nice. Closing is a totally different deal, so Notre Dame will need to close on these top guys and keep Keeley and Bowen. You bring up really good points. I mean, Absher's highly ranked. Jagasaw is probably going to be a 5-star. If they land these guys is the big question. And then potentially your lowest ranked guys, Preston Zinter, right now his national ranking is 419. And I'm learning this at On3. On3's, Rivals is different. How they do their star rankings and all this stuff is different. 419 is a 3-star right now in the consensus ranking, which is what we're always going to use. On3 has its own rankings. It's 25% of the consensus, the On3 consensus ranking, which also uses ESPN 24/7 Rivals all equally. So that's what we're going to use. If he stays at 419 at the end of the cycle, that's a 4-star. So that would mean your lowest player is a 4-star. 10 of the 11 Notre Dame commits right now 4-star. I mean, it's going to end up a really good class. I mean, it might not have a single 3-star. That sounds crazy, Tim.
It's completely crazy. You just look at Brian Kelly would load up on 3-stars. They've had great 3-stars. They've had 3-stars be All-Americans and whatnot. They've had some really good ones, but Notre Dame would settle. And I don't think Marcus Freeman, as you know, in your nightly Lucky Charms that you're throwing out, that are like, he's not settling at all.
So last year's class signed 3-3-stars per the On3 consensus. Steve Angeli, Bull, you know what? Donovan Heinisch and Bryce McPherson. Oh, and Ashton Craig. I mean, yeah, I just feel like 2022 didn't have that star power, but man, those are good class. Like someone like Ty Chan or Holden Stays, or I would say Jadarian Price and Jaden Mickey, but those guys had such great springs. Maybe be overlooked, but I mean, they're good players. But
going back to one of your points about they could be more points this year, highly ranked. But SC is going to get a lot of dudes this year. They just are.
That's the thing I'm talking about. Like SC is going to recruit Clemson.
Bama and Georgia are going to automatically be in there because they're machines, and they're going to get those SEC dudes down there. USC is going to get some really good football players this year. And then you got the A&M factor now, and Texas.
Yeah. So here's the top 10 from the 2022 cycle in order: A&M, Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame there at 6, Penn State 7, Oklahoma 8, Michigan 9, and North Carolina was 10. Where's Clemson? Oregon's recruiting really well right now. LSU, I mean, Bayou Bryan they're still recruiting pretty well. Tennessee, they've got a 5-star quarterback. So I feel like some of these programs are it's going to be tough for Notre Dame. So they obviously have to recruit at a higher level, but I guess like Notre Dame does. But my point is, I think some of these other programs are going to be like USC
USC is
and
the one.
LSU are
USC is the
two.
one. Exactly. USC is the one that's not in that top 10 that's going to jump. They are.
Okay.
They're going to get some dudes out west.
All right,
And they're
but
recruiting the heck out of Texas.
so you think 3 or 4? I think 5 or 6. I'm a little bit more pessimistic, but
well, the key is that young man in Detroit. The key is the there you go, right? Look at that.
On
Little
point.
prepping. On point. And
so
that's the key. That's the key right here.
Tim, I report on Dante Moore so much and take so many questions. It's like hard for me even to remember what the latest is. It seems like it's a 4-team race, and the recruiting prediction machine. My favorite thing about On3. Some people don't like it, but you know what? When people tell me they don't like the On3 RPM, I also say, you know what? My dad thought smartphones were stupid, and he wanted a flip phone forever until one Christmas I bought him an iPhone, and now he sits at work as a security guard, and he's on his phone and watches YouTube literally all day long. So, you know, you'll come around to it's what I'm saying. But yeah, On3 RPM, it's got Notre Dame as the favorite, 49.1%, LSU 24.4%, Oregon 13.1%, Miami 4.4%. It's just a tool for fans to use to be like, where might my team be standing for a recruit? There are some players who Notre Dame's like a heavy favorite for per the RPM, who Notre Dame's not even really recruiting. So you got to take this thing with a grain of salt, obviously. No one's saying that Notre Dame definitely has a 49.1% chance of lead. No, we're not. It's just a tool and something for us to talk about. So anyways, so those are the 4 teams it looks like are the main factors for Dante Moore. He's taken officials to LSU and Oregon. He unofficially visited Miami in April. Obviously, he unofficially visited Notre Dame at the end of March. Texas A&M, school we just talked about here recently, they're picking up their pursuit of him. On3 had an article that you can find on Dante Moore's profile here, written by Chad Simmons. Thoughts on this recruitment, Tim?
Yeah, but then A&M, I found that interesting with A&M. They signed a 5-star quarterback last year, so it's
so did LSU, or I think.
Well, LSU has Walker Howard. Yeah,
Oregon.
LSU.
Who did Oregon sign last year?
Well, they have Bo Nix. So they have Thompson from like 2 years ago, the 5-star that's there, and obviously LSU's got Walker Howard from last year, who was an early enrollee. So no, I mean, there's quarterbacks galore. I mean, at a bunch of these schools. No, I mean, he's the one. The fact, he's visited 2. He keeps saying he's going to do 5 officials. So where's that 5th? Is that going to be A&M?
Maybe.
Is Michigan completely? Is he just not even interested in Michigan anymore? Is that kind of the feel out there? Because you don't see anything about Michigan, nothing about unofficials to Michigan.
Pains me to say, Tim, I don't think Michigan is a big factor anymore. It pains me to say. I mean, here's the thing. I think Notre Dame is Dante Moore's number 1 school. And I think it's a discussion for folks about who's the number 1. One week it seems like Oregon. One week it seems like Miami. Now it seems like LSU is the trendy big contender. Is that to say that Notre Dame's a lock to land him? No, it's not. But I still believe that he is a Notre Dame lean right now.
And how is LSU? I mean, obviously you've talked to sources and things of that nature. Is that I always got the feel like he wasn't a Brian Kelly guy from reading some of the stuff from before, because Michigan was always the favorite with Josh Gaddis, obviously now at Miami. So now it always seemed like Notre Dame was 2. Brian Kelly leaves, they bounce up the number 1 from all the predictions. Now LSU's up there, and I'm just like, really, LSU, Detroit, to Baton Rouge?
The feeling for much of Moore's recruitment was that he's a Midwest guy. He's going to stay in the Midwest. Yeah. So then you look at this 5, Notre Dame, LSU, Oregon, Miami, Texas A&M. In the words of the great Taylor Swift, one of these things is not like the other. So if he's staying in the Midwest and those are your 5, you would think it's Notre Dame. But I feel like Dante Moore's recruitment going into March took this shift from, this regional prospect who's, got all these offers to like this national elite prospect with all of the eyeballs on him. I don't know what it was, but there just seemed like a shift where he was looking at Michigan, Michigan State, Notre Dame, and Ohio State to
Yep.
let's take a broad look at recruiting. That's why I just feel like at the end of it, he's going to go back to his roots. And I love cold weather quarterbacks playing at Notre Dame. Steve Angeli's a New Jersey guy. Dante Moore is a Detroit guy. I like personally for me. I mean, Tyler Buckner seems to be doing well with the cold, so he's I guess he's an exception. And obviously, there's plenty of warm weather quarterbacks who've done well at Notre Dame. That's just my preference.
Sure.
I just think Dante Moore, I think he's just Notre Dame's where he wants to be at the end of this. I just think there's a lot of you're a 5-star, take your time. Like we were hearing a lot, Tim. Yeah. He was going to commit early, March, April. But I just think as that profile has grown for him, I think a lot of people say, hey, why rush? Take your official visits. They're free. Have fun. Go see LSU. Go have my – what was it, Tim? I'm rambling now. Marcus Freeman, when he did that Chris Zorich interview last summer, I think he said, quote, about recruits, go take a visit to LSU because you're like – then you're going to come here. And if you're a Notre Dame guy, like if you belong here, you're going to pick us. So I kind of see this as the same thing. He's going to go to LSU, or he already did. Like he took his LSU official visit. He took his Oregon official visit. He's still uncommitted. I mean, if he saves Notre Dame for that June 10th weekend potentially, and they get the last one, that could be pretty big.
True.
So, all right, there's my rant. Saving the best for the last here, hour into the show. But that's my Dante Moore rant.
Yeah, the 30-second parlay off of that is if, like you're saying, the original Midwest, Michigan, Gaddis leaves, Michigan State takes a commit early. And then Ohio State's got a bunch of guys. So Ohio State's probably not going to take one this year because they're going to go all in on, what a Raiola out of Phoenix for next year. In next year's recruiting class, it looks like. So, and he's bouncing around. You got a bunch of quarterbacks have already committed. And Dante Moore's like, well, I'm going to go see what's out there. Profile, name, image, likeness, those types of things. His profile is going to now, you just said it, is bumping up national. The same with what is it, Rashada, the big quarterback out of the Oakland area,
Pittsburgh,
Northern California.
Yep.
The same thing California. With him. His profile is starting to go around. On3's been talking about how Eli Manning is a Texas, Georgia. There's been a lot of Eli Manning. I'm thinking Eli Manning because he was just at Notre Dame with his with Peyton during they're doing that stuff for their show next year. Eli's fresh in my brain, but with Arch going there, which means now Bama's focusing their quarterback on that with the kid out of Louisiana that Alabama's all over. So he's the one high profile guy. And I think him and the guy out of Northern California, those two, whoever goes first, it's a bidding war. It may be for him,
Yeah, for folks wondering who Notre Dame's backup option is, my answer is I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if Notre Dame really has one at the top of mind. It's I think it's Dante Moore. Maybe Avery Johnson, like possibly, but I think it's Dante Moore, maybe transfer, maybe Avery Johnson or bust.
They flipped some quarterbacks in the past. Obviously, Brian Kelly's flipped a handful of quarterbacks during his tenure, but right now it doesn't seem like. I mean, they're not talking to any quarterbacks, so anyone that they would flip, they would have to be a major flip. To open up communications with some guys, they're not going to flip, Nelson. They're not going to flip the high end guys. You're going to go in the teens and probably have to flip a guy if he goes to Oregon, LSU, let's say. But I'm with you. I'm just sitting here like, hey, let the young man go out there, do his thing, and at the end of the day, take a deep breath and realize, what name, image, likeness. Being a Notre Dame quarterback's pretty good at the end of the day.
Yeah. So, we just watched on YouTube some Dante Moore clips. So, yeah, saving the best for last. But good discussion. We're hour and 5 minutes into the show, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up. If you're just now joining us on YouTube, go ahead and you can watch this replay of this back, start from the beginning. You listen via podcast. I'll get this up on all the podcast channels on Wednesday night. Really appreciate you guys. We will be back next Wednesday. I think Tim want to do 6 p.m. Eastern. So we'll be back next Wednesday. Maybe between then we'll have a new commitment video to post. Maybe I don't know. Oh, we did just get a super chat. So 20. So we'll definitely take this. Appreciate the super chat, Chris. He says, "Hi guys, it was best said that this is the new Notre Dame and that Michigan could take all the 3 stars. Notre Dame is now fishing in the big pond with other top programs, and as Notre Dame fans, we are not used to it, but the top 3 to 4 teams deal with this every year." Tim?
Yep. Exactly. I mean, recruiting's Marcus Freeman says it, it's every day. It's every day. One of his interviews he did, it's like recruit when he was at Peacock, and Notre Dame, had a fundraiser day, and he was doing an interview with someone the other day that's on YouTube for everyone to go watch on the official college, the university page. And someone asked him a question. He's like, I got to go recruit. I got recruits to go call. So he's on it. I mean, he put the pressure on himself on that, when he got introduced, that he's going to be the lead recruiter on all the dudes. And you talk to these guys, Mike, and they all say they're talking to Marcus Freeman along with the position coach, and it's going to bode well. And he's going after guys, and it's awesome to see a Notre Dame head football coach going out there working his tail off.
All right, here's a little insight to my job as a recruiting reporter. When Brian Kelly was head coach, when a kid visited Notre Dame or was being recruited by Notre Dame, it was not a guarantee at all that Brian Kelly had talked to the young man, even on a visit.
I know.
I told a story on the message board. There was a Notre Dame commit who visited, and it was after a game, and Brian Kelly walked by the recruit and just kind of gave him a little acknowledgement nod, but like a nod of like, I don't really know who you are, but we made eye contact, so I'm going to nod. Like, that's bad. That's not good. Yeah, I would interview kids and I'd be like, did you talk to Brian Kelly? Oftentimes, no, they didn't. Now, every interview I do with a recruit, like tomorrow morning, I'm posting an article on Emmett Mosley the 5th. Okay. Obviously a Notre Dame legacy with his parents both playing at Notre Dame football, and his mom was a fantastic soccer player for the Fighting Irish. It's just like, how was talking to Freeman? There's no did you talk to Freeman? How was Coach Freeman? Because, I mean, I don't know how that guy, Marcus Freeman, with 6 kids and all the responsibilities that he has, is talking to all these 25 and 24 and 23 recruits. Like, it's just crazy. The dude must have 30-hour work days. I don't know how he does it, but cheers to Marcus Freeman.
Well, before we go, I know I think it was Pat Forty was in town for the spring game, wrote an article about him, and his wife was quoted like, we're going away on a 10-day cruise and no recruiting, but he's going to get away somewhere on his laptop and send a text message to someone. But for his wife to know how hard he's working, and it's like, honey, we're getting away for at least a week plus to get away from the world. And but you know what? His name's on it. His name's on this program. He wants to put his stamp on here. I go back to when he got hired. He's a Buckeye, and I say that as in he's been at the highest level of college football, and I think he knows what it takes to win, and he's going to put that effort in, and it's showing. As you talk to all these recruits all the time, it's showing.
Yeah. All right, great stuff. Appreciate the super chat, Christopher. And yeah, now we're gonna sign off. Appreciate you guys. Hit the thumbs up on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. $1 for 1 year premium access. Leave a nice review on a podcast wherever you listen to this. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next time.